our last remaining native cat species in this country. We've persecuted the northern lynx to extinction, and so the Scottish wildcat is it. It's the last one. We need to do what we can to help it. Now, the Scottish wildcat is believed to be, weight for weight, the most aggressive cat species in the world. It's also believed to be perhaps the only cat species that is truly untamable.
I think their reputation for an untamable nature just really highlights that they are different right to the core from our domestic cats. So a domestic cat that's been neglected or not used to humans at all can usually be gradually brought round to trust humans over time. Whereas a wild cat, you know, for 8,000–9,000 years at least, has been a wild animal and is never really going to entirely trust humans. Wildcats were historically persecuted and were only given legal protection in the 1980s, which is quite recently. Since then, things have improved a lot, but we're still finding that occasionally they get accidentally killed by gamekeepers and pest controllers. But since they were legally protected, they have really been suffering from a combination of more difficult things to solve, which are things like hybridization with domestic origin cats and disease, of course, transferring from unneutered and vaccinated feral cats and pet cats to the wild cats. Hybridization is sometimes called crossbreeding or integration. It's where animals of different genetic origin cross. And in this case, we've got Scottish wildcats crossbreeding with cats of domestic origin. So thousands of years of separate development, suddenly they get crossed over. And why that's a problem is that every time that happens, the genes are diluted and all those features and adaptations that make a Scottish wildcat special get diluted down and are gradually lost. So as well as changing in appearance, it's losing some of those advantages that help it do its job in the environment and survive out here. Okay, so our target animals are feral cats, so that's cats of domestic origin, and very obvious quality hybrids that we want to catch for neutering and vaccination and returning back to where they came from. So the idea is that we use cameras first to figure out where cats are and to figure out if it's safe to trap. So we find wee spots in the woods and fields where it's safe to tuck one of these in out of the way, out of the weather, and cats, being curious, come along, look for our food and scent. The biggest and simplest thing people can do is simply get their own pets neutered and vaccinated, which is good for their pet, but it also helps protect local wildcats.
So here at the British Wildlife Centre, we are part of a nationwide group, the Scottish Wildcat Conservation Action Group, where we are actively breeding Scottish wildcats every year, which will hopefully and potentially be released into the wilds of Scotland in the near future. We want to try and keep them as pure as possible. So that's not only pure as a species, but also pure as a subspecies that has been separated from mainland Europe as long as the Scottish wildcat has been.
People have asked me, what would it matter if we lost Scottish wildcats? Haven't we got, you know, feral cats that will just do the same job? And actually, that's not true. Wildcats do fill a unique niche in our environment, and if we were to lose them, it would have flow-on effects for other species. And I think the Scottish countryside would definitely be less of an interesting and wild place without the Scottish wildcat.